What's up, everybody? It's Scotty here with Flat Track Flashback, and the hiatus is finally done. We're back to racing this weekend. American Flat Track resumes with 4 weeks in a row, starting in Middletown, New York. Then we go to Bridgeport, then Lima, and wrap this stretch up with the DuQuoin Mile there over 4th of July weekend after the Amateur Nationals. So, a pivotal stretch in this championship. Tight points battles in the twins class. Cody Kopp really flexing his muscles and trying to bring home that third consecutive singles championship. And as the series heads into Middletown, New York, this place presented a lot of challenges for the riders last year. Very flat track and got super slick with a lot of rough spots on entry. So very tricky to navigate that track throughout the night. And the singles main event was a wild one. It was chaotic. Hard charging by Cody Kopp to pull off the win there. And then the twins race pretty much dominated by Jared Meese. Late race restart brought some people back into it, but the champ was able to hold on. And we're going to start things in the twins class. Looking back to California, obviously, Briar Bauman proved that he is capable of still being that dude, and he dominated Ventura, almost 5 seconds of a win at that racetrack. Really fun to watch Ventura, great surface. Loved that night of racing out there, and Briar showed that he can still dominate these events. In that KTM on top of the box. His first podium of the season and currently his only podium thus far on the year. Briar unable to keep that momentum going into Silver Dollar, where we saw another installment of the Jared Meese and Dallas Daniels rivalry take place, and Jared was able to come out on top there. For Briar's win in Ventura, his 25th in the Premier class, and for Jared, his 74th as he continues to close in on Chris Carr for second all-time. And that battle between Jared and Dallas, you could see just the polar opposite emotions. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. Seeing Jared that amped up, he knows how vital that race was for their championship battle, and to carry that momentum into this offseason, or this off weeks stretch before Middletown. Jared gets to be the last rider that's won a race. He gets to have that crown coming into Middletown, a race that he won at last year, while Dallas, unfortunately, has to sit and kind of stew with that second place. Dallas had back-to-back podiums, back-to-back runner-up finishes in California, but podiums aren't going to be enough. And in Middletown last year, he finished third and on the podium at that time, with Middletown being later in the year. He'd mentioned he'd been on the podium 12 straight races, but at Middletown last year as well, Jared Meese's win propelled Meese to the points lead at that race. So podiums aren't going to be enough. You've got to pick up wins, and Dallas has had to sit with that second-place finish, so close to making it happen out there, but he's had to sit with it during this entire time. So you best believe he's going to be fired up. And I mean, it's tough. Second and third is great, but they want wins, and you got to win races to get these championships. Consistency is a big factor when you've got people like Jared Meese, who's just not going to have bad nights now that we've got Daytona behind us, it seems. Anything can happen, but Jared's proven that he can be the most consistent rider on the circuit, and he's definitely driven to win another championship. We see there's levels in any sort of competition where you've got your competitors who are out there, but it takes another gear to go from a competitor to a winner, and even greater gear to go from a winner into a champion. And Jared is able to tap into that extra gear and just find something within himself. Obviously confidence in himself and the machine. And Jared, I think, also has sort of tapped into, champions have to have a little bit of a FU mindset to everybody else on the track, where you're not going to beat me on that day. And Jared's been able to find that, and you see it a lot with Cody Kopp as well in the singles class, and a lot of these other riders, they gotta tap into that expansion pack where, screw you, I'm winning today, and no matter what it takes, and Jared's willing to lay it all out there and make the aggressive. I don't think they're dirty passes. I have had conversations about some of Jared's passes with people in the past, and I don't think it's a dirty move. Block passing, but I think he's confident in his ability to make these passes stick. And hey, it's exciting for the fans. We saw he and Dallas throwing sliders back and forth at each other. Obviously, we remember some of the battles between Jared and Briar over the years. And Jared's got confidence in himself and the machine, and they're a dangerous force right now to be reckoned with in that twins class. Not a bad weekend, or not a bad couple of weeks for Brandon Robinson out there. He comes home with 2 top 5s, but in doing so, after entering the points leader at Ventura, he comes out of Chico now third in points, 7 points back. And real quick, let's go ahead and look at the point standings here in the twins class. You see Dallas has the 6-point lead over Jared. Brandon Robinson 7 points back, super tight at the top. And then Briar Bauman back there in fourth with Jared Vanderkoy rounding out the top 5. Briar, Brandon, Jared, Dallas, well, that was your top 4 at Middletown last year. And Dallas was able to steal the podium away from Brandon Robinson there on the last lap in Middletown. Otherwise, that would have been his first, or that would have broken his podium streak. So, we'll see. This has obviously been the class of the field. These guys I would expect to be the favorites to win each of these rounds coming up. And it'll be interesting to see how they navigate Middletown, New York over the weekend, or if anybody else can maybe be a dark horse. Davis Fisher, obviously a horrible time out in California, being on the ground, having bike troubles. He'd come into Ventura with top 10 finished every single race, a couple of fourths on the season, but being back in the pack, Davis has now fallen to 7th in points, and he's way off of the championship battle there. Got to give a couple of nods to the rookie Chase as well, as we'll throw those points up. Trevor Bruner, still the leading rookie on the circuit, but only by 6 points over Max Whale. And then Declan Bender coming off of another top 10 as he continues to improve on that Indian, continues to put in solid rides on that bike. And he looks so settled and smooth on those Indians. And it'll be interesting to see what that team can do. They had Henry Wiles on the bike last year, and Henry was in the Mission Challenge at Middletown last year. So we'll see what Declan's able to accomplish with that Briggs Auto Grumpy Old Men Racing Indian as he continues to make strides in this Super Twins class and chasing that rookie battle. Bruner was of these three, was the top finishing rider in the singles class at Middletown last year. So stepping up, we'll see what they're able to accomplish on that KTM. Bruner obviously looking to bounce back from what looked like it would be a season best in Chico, where he was in the dash on the front row of the main event, but fell back to 12th in that main event, and that's not something that Trevor's going to be happy with. These tracks coming up, I'm very excited to see how he can perform at Bridgeport as well, where he was up there in the mix with Tom Drain for the win in that singles class, where Drainey was able to pull away. Bruner obviously pretty quick at Lima and has been solid on miles. We'll see what that KTM is able to do. Obviously, Michelle and Dave bike ridden by Briar at Springfield last year was the last bike to win a mile. See how that transitions into DuQuoin, but that is further down the road. So we'll see how Middletown treats the Twins class. Obviously, we talked last week about Dalton Gauthier stepping up onto that Royal Enfield, the bike that Johnny Lewis was riding throughout this season before his injury, and we hope Johnny can continue to improve, as well as Finn Lau and Morgan Mishler. We want to see them back at the track, and just such an unfortunate situation there at Ventura with their injuries and in those crashes. But Dalton Gauthier taking over the Royal Enfield ride, and Johnny Lewis was on track to sweep the night on that bike. Fast time, won his heat race, won the dash, but just faded in the main event. And we'll see what Dalton's able to do on that Royal Enfield when they come up to Middletown, New York. Also, looks like Billy Ross is going to be back in the house. It'll be good to have Billy back out at the racetrack. Last year at Middletown was Billy's best result of the season, where he came home 6th, a little bit of a beneficiary after that late race restart. He was running 11th at the time, but made the best of those closing laps and was able to come in with a 6th place finish. So it'll be fun to see Billy back out at the racetrack. First time we'll get to see him on the circuit this year. As we now transition into the singles class, a class that's really become a 3-horse race. It looks like Cody Cobb, Tom Drain, Chase Sadoff, those are going to be the guys, and I thought this class was going to have a lot more parity throughout the year. Obviously, we got a long way to go, and things can still get mixed up there, but these three have really separated themselves from the pack in this class and have proven to be sort of the three-headed monster that's going to control this series, and even more so, Cody Cobb, who is coming off of his 3rd win on the year. He's now 18 overall, 1 behind Shayna Texter-Bauman for the all-time wins in the singles class, and prior to Cody's win at Silver Dollar, Tom Drain picked up the win in Ventura. A very fun race out there, as Tom had to really scratch and claw through the pack to get to the front, battling with Chase up front, and then able to pull away. But then Tom's weekend back in Chico gets mixed up in that crash after TJ Welty went down and forces Tom to go to the back, and he has to once again scratch and claw his way up through the field to get a respectable finish. Gets back to 6th, but it does, as we look at the point standings, Cody Cobb up ahead of Chase Sadoff by 22, and then Tom 25 back. After that, you got Trent Lowe and James Ott bringing in the top 5, and Trent's had a couple of decent runs lately. Got 2 podiums out there in California, so they're starting to find that consistency and find that groove. We'll see what Trent's able to do throughout the rest of this little stretch. I think it could be very promising rounds, especially when we wrap things up with this window into coin. But this class has only seen, throughout the first 6 races of 18 available podium spots, 3 for a race, 6 races, only 5 riders have stood on the box this year in the singles class. And it's been Cody Kopp, Tom Drain, Chase Sadoff, Dalton Gauthier, and Trent Lowe. Those are the only riders to hit the podium in the singles class. Again, Cody, Tom, and Chase especially have really shown to be sort of the class of the field. Chase's worst finish on the season thus far has been 5th at Ventura. He's been, 4th, 3rd, 1st, 5th, 2nd. Cody, 1-2, 1-2, 4-1. And then Tom, with that stretch from the second night of Daytona through Ventura, was on the box every night, but that looming DNF from Daytona night 1, and then having to claw back from being on the ground in Chico, those are looming large over Tom right now and really holding him back from putting immense pressure on Cody in this championship. Cody, Chase, Tom, and Trent were the top 4 in Middletown in 2024, and I would expect nothing less. I think they'll be the ones to keep an eye on this night when we go up to Middletown. And in addition, these are the guys who've been really, really sporty at a lot of these outlaw races recently. Just this past weekend, Cody and Tom split victories at the Nicky and Earl Hayden Memorial at Windy Hollow. Trent staying sharp, getting laps in. He was out there at Lawrenceburg Speedway and picked up a couple of wins out there. Obviously, that being a short track and not big half mile like we're going to see it at Middletown. Real quick, pause button there. I want to thank Scotty Dubler. Number one, for getting the pit walks back on the broadcast. That filling the gap between qualifying and opening ceremonies is vital. So thank you so much, Scotty, for doing that. And as we kind of touched on last week about him getting some stuff out about Dairyland, Scotty's also gotten left out back going and has been posting lineups and some results on that Instagram account to show what's going on. He was able to give us a lot of insight of what's going on during Lawrenceburg on Friday night, and then again at the Nicky and Earl Hayden Memorial on Saturday, the RPM Promotions event. So appreciate Scotty doing that. It's something I try to keep an eye out for. Anytime they're going to fire something off on Left Out, try to stay up with those updates. So if you're not following along with that page, please do so. Left Out LLC, I believe. If I'm incorrect, Scotty, help me out in the comments. And yeah, y'all, please follow along with that because I appreciate Scotty giving us some insight on some of these bigger outlaw races, or just if he goes to a track anywhere, just seeing some of the action that's going on at these racetracks that we're not able to make it to, and getting some kind of coverage of those events, to seeing how these riders are doing during these off weeks when they're not out at nationals. And speaking of covering non-nationals, we talked about Frank up in Pennsylvania and his channel, F3 Videos and Photos. He was at Gratz over the weekend up in Pennsylvania, and that's where we got to see Evan Renshaw turn some laps on a cushion half mile and had a dominating performance in his first main event, and then made a last lap pass, a drag race between he and Jonathan Conaby to the line in that final race of the day there at Gratz. So we'll link that video in the bio if you want to check out some of that racing from Gratz. Again, if you're in the District 6 area or just want to keep up with what's going on up in Pennsylvania, Frank does a great job in covering all that action and posting a lot of videos to his YouTube page. And you get heat racing through main events, one big rip. It's really special what he's doing, and really thankful that he's showcasing that racing and that region near and dear to me, because when we weren't able to go to races in the Southeast, my mom being from Maryland, we would go visit family up in Maryland and check out tracks up in Pennsylvania in the Maryland area. So it's cool to see all the action that's going on up at those racetracks as well. Back into the singles class, there's a few riders who are coming off of career bests over the weekend. Terran Santero initially had his career best at Ventura before topping that at Chico and getting his first top 5. Comes home 4th, and shouts out to Terran, who's really making the most of the season. Of course, he's had some issues this week with transportation. So hopefully they can get that all sorted out, and Terran's good to go for this weekend. It's been fun to see these last few weeks, him really sort of rise up the running order there. He and Travis Tetton tend to lock down sort of that just inside or just outside the top 10 spots in the running order, but he's really started to put it together. Also, rookie Justin Anselmi picks up a top 10, and then we had a great time watching Ian Wolf run the high line at Chico and come home 12th in the main event, his best finish. Ian's having a great year. He had a fun interview with Scotty on the Off the Groove podcast a couple of weeks back, and great to hear from these riders that don't necessarily get as much of the spotlight on the TV broadcast, but these real true privateer working men riders who are just making it happen and chasing the dream. So yeah, those guys are coming off their best finishes, but I do think it's going to be another episode of the Big Three with Chase and Cody and Tom. Last year, those three were the leaders of that race in Middletown. Tom led early before Chase was able to get by and really stretch out a lead. Chase had north of 2 seconds over Cody in that race last year, but Cody was the only one turning laps under 27.3. He was in the 27.2s and below, and nobody could match that on a consistent pace or a consistent rate toward the end of that singles race in Middletown last year. And Cody, when he got to the bottom in 3 and 4, was making so much more time, and then again entering low in 1 and 2, letting the bike sort of drift up, coming off the corner, just so much faster than everybody else there at Middletown last year, and navigating that tricky, slick surface. Easy for me to say. So yeah, I expect those three to be really the head of the field when we go to Middletown again this year and continue their knockdown drag-out fight atop the singles championship. We'll see if Cody, through this stretch, is able to catch or tie or pass Shayna, where if Tom's able to, parlay some of that the success from the Nikki and Earl Hayden Memorial and turn that into another win. As we saw at Bridgeport last year, Tom was dominant there. Can't wait to get this series back underway and follow along with all the rest of you fans out there. There is one thing I wanted to touch on in a comment last week. I have been very vocal about there not being many riders in the Super Twins class as we all see it. And there was a comment who brought up the fact that I have a bike that would technically qualify for that class. So why am I not running it? And for me, there's several reasons as to why I'm not doing that. The first of which is just straight up sentimental value. Obviously, this is a tribute bike to our hero, Will Davis. And it means the world to me. It's probably as far as like possessions go, and I know shouldn't be too attached to possessions, but as far as like what we have, this is probably the most important thing to my dad and I. We got this bike in 2015. It is a purpose-built Mile XR 750 built by Jim Kelly in a C&J frame, and this bike has sat for 10 years, at least 10 years. It was only raced twice, so it's been bone dry since we got it. We've never even bumped it off, never even fired it. So for me, in addition to sentimental value, I also don't feel comfortable putting a rider on this bike because of how long it's been sitting without doing any sort of testing somewhere and finding a rider and a mechanic combo to get this thing up and running and ready to roll. Like, I'm not really interested in going that route. There's so many financial variables involved. I'm not exactly a monetarily rich person who's got the capital to get into racing these days. But yeah, I wouldn't feel safe putting somebody on a bike that hasn't run in 10 years out on a track, especially with it being a purpose-built miler at a mile track. If this thing starts blowing oil or leaking, I've wasted the rider's time, and we've put other people in danger as well. And not to mention the cost. If we blow the motor or crash it, then that's going to be devastating. It's been exciting to see what the Dodge brothers have been able to do with Sammy Halbert and their Harleys on those short tracks. I'm not so sure that, and I could be completely wrong, I'm not so sure that an XR at this point in time is going to be competitive with those Essence and Yamahas and the Indians on a mile. Props to Jeffrey Carver for getting a win on it in 2017 and proving that they can, in fact, beat an Indian. And props to Sammy for being super competitive on those short tracks. So it's possible it could happen. But unfortunately, this bike ain't going to be the one to do it. Thank you all again so much for watching and supporting this channel. I really appreciate the feedback, the engagement that goes into this. I appreciate you guys taking time to watch it. I know these are longer form videos, and there's only so many hours in a day. And so for y'all to take time out of your day to listen to this and to follow along, it truly does mean the world to me. Thank you so much for supporting this channel, and please continue to support all those who are helping promote this sport, whether it's through podcasts or YouTube, Instagram photos, Facebook, whatever, promoters, like we said. Please support everybody that's trying to keep this sport alive. It's the best form of motorcycle racing on the planet. Quite frankly, probably the best form of motorsports on the planet. And we're so stoked to have 4 weeks in a row at the top level, American Flat Track, on various surfaces. A flat track half mile, a banked clay half mile, that iconic cushion in Lima, and then the DuQuoin mile. A lot of variables coming up, a lot of things to be excited about, and we'll see how the championship battles play out over this next stretch. Again, please take time to listen to Tank Slappin' Podcast, Off the Groove with Scotty Dubler, Sidetracked with Sammy Halbert, and check out Sammy's YouTube channel. Also, Pipe Dreams with James Rispoli and Corey Alexander, the channels that we've mentioned in the past with Frank Fabricius. And also, I've been kind of selling them short by not mentioning it. Flat Track Factory with Mike Dillon. I've completely spaced, and Mike, I'm sorry, I haven't given you a shout out thus far, but Mike does a lot of good content as far as the technical aspect of motorcycle racing, and Mike is a regular down here in the Southeast. So Flat Track Factory is another channel to check out as well. If I missed anybody, I do apologize. But most importantly, thank you all again for not just watching this, but just for being fans of the sport and being part of this community and this family that we all have built around motorcycle racing and flat track specifically. Take care, y'all. Have a great week. Enjoy the racing this weekend. Oh, and happy Father's Day.